Broadcasting live from somewhere in the great upper Midwest and beaming directly to you worldwide. This is Night Talks Radio. Streaming to you live from Spreaker.com and somewhere deep in the great upper Midwest. If you're ready for a ride, you can call NTR anytime by dialing the nationwide caller line at 1-507-384-9390. First-time callers can reach Night Talks Radio at 1-507-307-4424. Text Daniel and NTR exclusively at 1-218-689-7126. Now, from somewhere in the great upper Midwest, here's your hosts, Daniel Brewer and Jennifer Gregerson.
Jamming out on a Saturday night from the great upper Midwest, coast to coast and nationwide, around the world online. This is another magnificent episode of Night Talks Radio. And as always, the amazing Jennifer Gregerson is with me, co-hosting once again. Jennifer, can you say hello to the masses?
Hey everyone, I'm glad to be here again tonight, as always.
As always, indeed, Jennifer. And tonight, folks, we have a wonderful show for you, finally, with special guest Joe Chase. Now, if you were following Night Talks Radio on Facebook and Twitter, like you're supposed to be doing, like good little girls and boys, you would have noticed that I had mentioned that Joe was going to be on last night. And actually, you would have noticed that he was supposed to be on during the week as well. And even prior to that. But of course, here at Night Talks Radio, if we didn't have problems, we literally wouldn't have anything else, folks. But that problem has been solved, as tonight an opening presented itself in the form of sickness, unfortunately, which seems to have been hitting our guests quite often the past few weeks. So the guest that was supposed to be on tonight was unable to make it, and Joe has slid into the Saturday night spot, the big primetime spot, so to speak. And folks, good thing too, because Joe's story, Joe's experiences are absolutely out of this world. It's something here at Night Talks Radio that we want the listeners to hear. It's quite extraordinary and eye-opener. Joe's story is quite intriguing, to say the very least. We are going to follow Joe's story from the time he was quite young to present time, and we will hear all about the reasons on why this show is so important and what Joseph has to say about the experiences that he went through. As far as guest titles, you could call Joe a UFOologist, although you could call Joe many of things. As a matter of fact, Joe is our NTR New Music Now artist, although Joe himself has stated he is not pursuing a musical career. But for the first time, not only with people hearing the song, but for the interview itself, will be the first time that Joe reveals his experiences on a wide scale. You will have questions. Joe may or may not have answers, but he's going to try. We'll open up the phone lines in the second hour for that simple purpose. And folks, this is such a interesting story, to say the very least. We may not be able to fit it into one show. It's filled with so many twists and turns that we might have to have a part 2. So I promise you tonight will be a very interesting show. Episode 3, One Man's Journey. That will be coming up here in just a few moments. We'd like to say a quick couple of thank yous before we begin, though. And that's a big thank you to all our supporters out there who have assisted us in the past couple of weeks with making NTR better and gaining more listenership, amongst other things as well. So, folks, without further ado, let's kick this bad boy off tonight on a Saturday night here in the great upper Midwest, Red Lake Falls, Minnesota. Get yourself some popcorn, your favorite beverage, and get ready for some intriguing stuff, folks. Special guest Joe Chase is coming up next on Night Talks Radio. We'll be right back. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Night Talks Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. And, of course, this is me, Daniel Brewer, your host, as always. Alongside of me is co-host Jennifer Gregerson. Jennifer, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello, everyone.
Well, hello, everyone, too. You know, how are you doing tonight? We had some issues earlier this week. We had some issues last night. We had some issues last weekend.
Yes, we did.
Can you explain to the audience, because I feel like every time I try to explain something now, I feel like that, like, oh, Dan's speaking again, he's making more stuff up.
No, he is not making anything up.
So
yes,
you're my witness.
I am.
My witness in this case.
So I have called multiple times to the internet company and asked if they're doing maintenance work.
If that's what you want to call it.
And
Internet.
sometimes, yes, they are doing maintenance work at, unfortunately, 2 in the morning to 5 in the morning. But with what had happened to us in the last couple of weeks, they were not doing any maintenance work. We still haven't figured out what the problem was, but they have been over here twice. And the first time they came over, they gave us a new box to add to our modem. Is that correct?
Yeah, one of them. I mean, just we have multiple boxes now. We don't know what is what.
Right, and then the second time they came over, which was actually yesterday, is they added a new cord or
there's a new
connection to it?
Fiber optic cable.
Okay.
It's just they're really going through the motions on trying to figure out what the problem could be, even though it seems that none of those are the problem.
No, but we are very grateful. I mean, this internet company is amazing. They have been answering all our questions, helping us out along the way. They understand that we have a radio show that we need to continue.
We have a radio show?
Our folks. Yes, we do have a radio show.
People wouldn't realize that with all the problems that we have.
Well, it's radio. That's what you say all the time, isn't it, Daniel?
I'll tell you what, I sure do. Yeah.
And speaking of problems, can we tell them why we are starting a little bit later today?
Well, you know what? There was a cavalcade of issues this time. Once again, just different formats. Different. The mic wasn't. The mic was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I think that because you obviously cannot have two people doing a show with just one mic.
Exactly.
Huddle around that thing like a bonfire in the middle of winter. So. That wouldn't be very good.
Also, note to self: do not turn off your microphones.
Yeah, don't make any changes. Don't turn off microphones. Don't do anything when you're trying to do a radio show from your own home, folks. Just wait until you get better and you have bigger and better things, equipment, and things of that nature. And then, of course, during this week, we also had the CME that caused some problems and put us out internet-wise and even cell phone-wise. The towers were out for a while.
Oh, yes.
We didn't have 5G or any signal, period, so that delayed things quite a bit. But thankfully, we had this opening tonight we're about to welcome our guest here shortly, but, he was supposed to be on last night, but...
Yeah.
Friday night, sure, it's a special night. It's
right.
a special occasion type show. But I much rather have these
our
type of
listening
shows
ship on Saturday and Sundays like they're used to.
Well, yeah, but these type of shows, these intense, top quality shows, I much rather have on a Saturday night, which is our sort of prime time deal. You know what I mean? Not saying that Sunday's nothing. Sunday obviously is pretty good as well. But Saturday night, late night radio is obviously the cat's ass.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
we want to get our friend here, Joe, a spot on the best possible night, and it ended up working out. It came full circle after about a week and a half.
Yes, that is correct. And we do have to be very careful though, because we just recently found out that we are actually here in Minnesota. Roseau is actually in Tornado Alley. Did you know that?
I did know that. It's a tip of Tornado Alley, to be honest with you. Why? What's going on in Roseau?
Well, Roseau is Tornado Alley because of the international falls and Canada as well. But we here in Redley Falls are also in Tornado Alley. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah, I knew that. Yeah, we're at the very tip. It goes up to Roseau, goes up to International Falls. We're at the very tip, which means we're still in danger. Why? Is there another tornado warning?
Well,
let me guess.
No, we had one last night, but we are in very big danger when it comes close to tornadoes being on the ground over here, because Dorothy, Minnesota, is a small town which is only about 20 miles from us here, and that gets hit every year by multiple tornadoes.
Well, before, we're going to get to Joe here, but the last thing I want to talk about really quick, speaking of tornadoes, I will say that, the 75 tornadoes that we've had in the past 2 weeks is pretty unusual for Minnesota. Minnesota, at this point, usually has about, realistically, 5 or 10 tornadoes at this point. The tornadoes don't really start to pick up until... the beginning of August and going through August into September and things like that.
That is correct. But I'm going somewhere with this, Daniel.
Oh,
where I'm going
really?
with is, unfortunately, one of my friends, Debbie Pierce,
Oh, no.
actually had a very bad tornado go through her yard yesterday over by Michigan. And
Like my Michigan? Like
yeah.
where I'm from?
yeah, I mean, the good thing is everything
What?
was okay and everything, except it caused quite a bit of damage to her patio and everything. So we just want to say prayers to Debbie out there, and we hope that everything works out and you're able to fix that as soon as possible.
Wow, I didn't realize that. Yeah, best wishes to Debbie out there in Michigan. Whereabouts in Michigan, real quick?
You know, I'm not quite sure exactly where in Michigan. I'd have to look back again.
It's
but
not
I
Ann
know-
Arbor, right?
Well, you know, it's
Because if it's Ann Arbor, you know, good luck, Debbie. I'm sorry, but move to East Lansing. No, I'm joking, Debbie.
Actually, I think it's close to like the Mackinac area.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm-
I
you
think
know what?
so.
I'm
Because she
surprised-
posts a lot about Mackinac, the bridge, and a lot about
surprised
Lake
you said that
Michigan
correctly.
and things like that. So I'm pretty sure that's where it's at.
Usually people say the Mackinac.
Mackinac.
Have you seen that Mackinac Bridge? You know?
Hey, that's an amazing bridge, though.
had some Mackinac fudge?
I would love to actually drive across that bridge.
Well, I have about 10 to 15 times total, and each and every time I hate it more and more.
Yeah, because you
So
hate
when
water.
when there's a bridge that moves in weather and things like that, we got some police activity going on outside.
Hey, it's a Saturday night.
It's Saturday night in Red Lake Falls. Look out, everybody! somebody had a little too much Boone's Farm. So, but no, yeah, it's that bridge scares the living hell out of me. As a matter of fact, next time I go over that thing, I'm gonna pay one of those people that actually you pay them and they'll take you across the bridge in their car. Or truck and whatnot, and you can stick your head, you know, down to the seat or whatever. You don't have to look.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
Okay, but
I
you
hate bridges.
You pay them
Top
to
three
take
things
you
in
across in their
that's
car
fine.
or your car.
Your vehicle. They get your
okay,
vehicle.
okay.
You know, it's like a thing. Like
Yeah,
they're
because it
posted
doesn't
on
make
each side. No, it's not like
It
well,
doesn't
here's my
make
vehicle.
sense if
you know.
they take you on their vehicle. Because
Right.
how would
yeah,
your vehicle
that's-
get over there? Yeah,
right. You've always
right.
been. Yes, you've always been a very bright bulb, Jennifer. But anyhow, yeah. So they do that for you. You know, and you don't have to worry about it. You know, you don't have to look and see if, you know, you're going to get blown off the bridge or something like that. You know, the bridge
Oh, my
actually has
goodness.
warnings that state, like, don't drive over this thing or take caution and drive like 25 miles an hour or 20 miles an hour because there's winds that can blow you off the bridge. Like, no thank you. I won't be going to the UP or the Lower Peninsula today.
Right, well,
It's just that simple.
I
Top
don't-
3 things in life that I hate, real quick. Top 3 things that I like, or I'm sorry, not like, that I hate in life is it would be dying in an airplane. It
Water.
would be sinking in a boat in the middle of the ocean, and then crossing the Mackinac Bridge. I
Yes,
think.
but here's the thing is that he investigates airplane crashes all the time and watches airplane shows all the time and he watches boat shows all the time. He's like fascinated with it, but of course
you know
he
what?
hates it. He'll never have anything to do with it.
My show is paranormal, UFO, you know, conspiracy theories, this and that. I mean, many people are probably not surprised the things that I do, but I'll tell you what, if the government came to my house and looked through my things, I'd probably be in prison for the rest of my life or something.
Probably so.
Right, I would imagine so. Yeah.
Probably.
So, why are you looking at
down the rabbit
this?
hole too much.
I fall down the YouTube rabbit hole and multiple other rabbit holes and just all through the night. But all right, I think we've done
Anyway,
enough.
let's go ahead and get on with
Yeah.
this show and let's have a wonderful show tonight.
Let's do it. High five, virtual high five with everybody out
Yes,
there.
high five, everyone.
Okay. So patiently waiting is our friend Joseph. Joseph, are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here, Dan. How are you?
Oh my goodness! Well, you heard what we were speaking about. We've been dealing with tornadoes and internet outages and sun flares and just a multitude of things, man. And I know it's pushed you back quite a bit, and I was so disappointed. I was hoping that some sort of magic would happen and we'd be able to get you on this week and and it ended up coming full circle, like I said, and you're on a Saturday night, one of our best nights, so it all worked out, I think.
Yes, it did. We actually appreciate you coming on a Saturday
We really
night.
do. And the patience as
Oh,
well.
hey, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
No problem,
Absolutely.
no problem. We would have actually had you on Friday, but like I said, and like Daniel
Yeah.
said, is we had a guest that had canceled on us,
Got sick
plenty
again.
of time,
COVID,
but
man.
she got sick with COVID, and stuff, so she's just going to reschedule later on, which is not a big deal. We always manage to figure it out here at Night Talks Radio.
Yeah, we sure do. I don't know how we manage to get through it, but we do.
I think it gives me more gray hair than anything.
I'll tell you what, about 7 months ago when I was like, we should start doing radio. That may or may not have been one of the worst choices I've ever made in my life. I don't know about that.
I don't know.
But, Joseph, okay, so let's kick this thing off. How about you explain a little bit about yourself for the audience and listeners tonight?
Just pretty much a normal guy. Started off growing up in New Brunswick, Canada.
New Brunswick. Okay, I know exactly.
Yeah.
I played junior hockey. I don't know if we spoke about this before, but I played junior hockey, and there'd be some occasions where I'd head out that direction. So, London, Hamilton. As well, Montreal, all the way up to Quebec City.
I don't know. I've never been to
Toronto.
Canada. Well, I can't say I've never been to Canada. I've been there once. I've been to a small little town of Canada called Rainy River, if anyone's ever heard of that. That's over on
Rainy River. Is that Ontario?
It's crossing over by Baudette somewhere. I don't know where.
Oh, over here.
But
Manitoba.
I went over there
Maybe.
and bought furniture for $1,200, which is technically about $3,000 American.
Well, that's a great
So,
story. Okay,
yeah.
We'll see you next time on Night Talks Radio, everybody. All right. Joe, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay, so you're from New Brunswick. Continue, my friend.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in New Brunswick. I was about 16 years old. Moved to Toronto. Wanted to get a taste of the big city.
Ah, yes.
I lived in Toronto. I lived in Toronto till about 10 years ago and had enough of the big city and moved out to the country a little bit out of the city.
Okay. That's pretty similar to how I was. I grew up in the Detroit area, and it's been 8 years for me, but I really got fed up with the whole busy city life myself, and honestly, I would probably never go back.
I didn't think there was much of a country life in Canada.
There's
I
a lot of country in Canada.
I think of it as villages. I'm sorry.
No, it's I'm serious.
I have to go to Canada one day, I guess.
Is this night? I mean, what is this? 1942? I mean,
well, I don't know.
Yeah, there's people and everything. So you moved down to Toronto. Okay. And you moved to I guess we could call it a more desolate area. Okay, what happened at that point then?
Well, I had this otherworldly experience.
Okay.
That happened in 2017.
2017.
And
what now before we get to that experience, tell me how things were for you growing up before this experience that we've been talking to people about. What were you like? What did you do? What was that whole scenario about?
Well, growing up, I was, every other kid, just a normal kid growing up. Went to school down in New Brunswick and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I was always kind of a rebellious kind of kid. When I was younger, I didn't like. I remember from a young age, I never liked being told how you're supposed to be, like how you're supposed to think. Right. Things that were conditioning us. I always seen it as a kid, and I always kind of rebelled against that and rebelled against an authority. Like,
Understood.
it's you know, like, you know, when I was a kid and they brought me to church, like even there, I was asking too many questions. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I was just never the type to be told this is what it is and this is what it is and don't ask questions and just believe this and, you know, and the whole conditioning of act like this and behave like this. And so just the whole authority, I was always kind of a rebellion to it, you know?
Okay.
And, yeah, but I was, you know, had some weird experiences I can talk about later. I'll get back to it when I was younger. But so from there, like, when I was in high school, I got into a fight with a teacher. I quit school. I moved to Toronto around that time, shortly after that.
Okay.
So, you know, Toronto, I was kind of like, I don't know, just being a kid for a couple of years. But then I realized, wait a minute, I got to do something for school here. So I put myself back through school.
Okay.
Ended up going to college. You know, put myself through college, and
now you were going for was it for accounting? You wanted to be okay.
Yeah, I was studying business, wanted to be an accountant. You know, just pretty much a regular person. Like, I like to party and I like to have fun. I was a bit reckless, but you know, I had a colorful.
Yeah, I mean, I totally, I'm on the same level with you. I know exactly what you mean, so.
So, around the end of college, though, I'm realizing, you know, I'm not an accountant.
Right.
I might be good at it, but the idea of sitting behind a desk 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, just crunching numbers, I was like, that would drive me nuts.
Yeah, I think that same here, yeah.
You know, and around that age, I was into, you know, building cars, tearing cars apart, buying cars, fixing them up. So I was more hands-on, right?
Okay.
I like building stuff. I like, you know.
That's how I've been. That's exactly how I've been. I've never been able to do an office-type job, things like that. I have to be moving. I have to be physical. I have to be lifting, or I have to be climbing. I have to be doing something.
Yeah.
And I'm the complete opposite, actually, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, you're complete opposite.
I like to be like I like to be out there with people and stuff like that. So I mean, even if I get an office job, you know, and everything, I'm still getting customer service. You know, I'm still providing customer service to people. I'm seeing them and everything like that. So to me, it doesn't really matter.
She's one of those ones that will kill you with kindness. She is just, you know, she loves those type of jobs. It's perfect for her. But for, you know, I think we spoke about this, you know, I worked for the railroad, you know, you're very hands-on. So, you know, we know exactly what we're talking about, you know. She's never been in that world, you know, so.
No, you just mainly want to be like left alone and kind of off to yourself and not have to worry about
you know what?
I
think, you know, well, at least for me, you know, just let me be. Let me do what I got to do, man.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
That's how I was. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
So anyway, so after college, you know, I just had a couple regular jobs, and then I got into construction work, you know, which I really like, driving a big truck, doing some heavy construction, and
absolutely,
you know, just hands-on kind of stuff, right? So fairly normal life, you know. Got married, had a kid, bought a house. You know what I mean? Like, moved out of the city, bought a house in a small town, and, you know, doing fairly good in life. And everything's just, I don't know, everything seems normal.
It was going good. It was copacetic.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you're living the dream, you know. You're just doing what's normal or seems normal in society. Right?
That's how I was. When things were going normal, I was living the dream. Honestly, you know, I mean, because usually things are just, you know, fucked up. But
I don't know what normal is, really, honestly, to tell you the truth.
I'll tell you right now, this is normal.
Is this, are we normal, Daniel? Are we normal?
We're doing pretty normal.
We're as normal as we can be, I guess, huh?
Go ahead, Joseph. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so where things get weird for me in my life.
Okay.
I was always into ufology, right?
Okay.
And I just like talking about UFOs and stuff, and
Absolutely.
That's, I don't know, it was always a big part of my understanding, like all the way back, to being a kid. It's like just always having this knowing, like there's something else.
Just a fascination with it, yeah.
So, along about 2017 in January,
Okay.
There was things going on, and I'm working with this really cool guy from Colombia named Jose. So, me and Jose, both ufologists, right? We love this stuff. We love it. We love looking at it. We're looking at videos all the time, sharing. And around that time, there was a lot of things going on the Earth, and stuff that we were looking at. Actually, there was a lot of talk of Nibiru, Planet X.
Planet X.
And so this is going back to the late 2016, early 2017.
Okay.
And there was this talk, and we were looking at that stuff. Then there was this other talk of, I'm sure you guys have heard of it, of a fake alien invasion and stuff like this.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. Project Blue Book, all kinds of stuff.
Exactly. So we're looking at this kind of stuff as well.
Right.
And we're having conversations with ourselves at work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, well, what if something happened, right? What if Planet Nibiru, whatever? What if some global catastrophe happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or what if there's an invasion but it's not fake? What if it's only half fake but half real, right? And we were having this discussion, me and Jose, and it came up. He says, you used to meditate, you used to do things when you were younger.
Oh, yeah.
He says, why don't you try meditating? Why don't you try speaking to some beings? He said, if there's bad ones that would attack us, there would have to be good ones that would help us.
Right.
Right? And this is just two guys having a conversation at work, mind you.
Absolutely.
Right? And we're just like, So, anyways, what happened is that night, I'm at home. I'm about to go to bed. I turn my TV off and everything downstairs in my basement.
Okay.
And just when I was about to leave, I remembered that conversation. And I thought, well, I used to meditate when I was younger, when I was in college, right? I used to just unknowingly, I was playing with energies and stuff like this. I was experimenting with stuff back then.
Okay.
But I don't know. I never really pursued it. I was hanging out with, a certain crowd of people, and they were like, what's that stuff you're getting into?
Yeah, more or less your environment and things like that.
Yeah, so I never really got into all the I never really got into all the metaphysical stuff back then, but I had done certain things, right?
You dabbled.
Yeah, and like I had an experience with telepathy once.
Okay.
Right, which was in my college, my college years, and me and two friends, we're two brothers. We're out to lunch one day, and we're in a bar in the middle of the afternoon. The place is empty. And the waitress came over to take our order, and she says, "Okay, I'll be right back with some waters for you." And she comes back with water, and mine has a lemon slice sitting in, and theirs doesn't. And the two brothers are looking at each other like, kind of, scrunching their eyebrows, like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah.
And they're looking at me, and I was like, "I don't know." So my friend asked the waitress, he goes, "Excuse me, just out of curiosity, why does his have a lemon and ours doesn't?" And she says, "He's the only one that asked for it." And they're both looking at me, and I was like, I didn't ask for it. And they were like, I know you didn't ask for it. But what was interesting is when she said, I'm going to take your order, I'll bring you water, I thought to myself, because we were in a bar, I thought, I wonder if this bar has a lemon in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Or a lime. You know, and so it was this weird experience, right? And this was around the time I was doing these meditations and stuff like that.
So you're thinking that your thought while sitting there, does this restaurant have lemons or limes and things like that for their water, that you communicated somehow to her?
Yeah, like how did she hear that thought?
Yeah, exactly.
But it could have been vice versa, too. She could have communicated with him.
Right. Well, yeah, she was obviously communicating with him verbally, but his thought perhaps was so powerful that she may not even have known that thought was put into her head, perhaps.
Right. But you
for
also,
some reason, she knew to put a lemon in his specific drink and not his friend's, for example.
Right, but I mean, you don't know if she maybe had some strong powers too, and there was some kind of connection that way.
That's true as well.
I see where you're going with that. Okay, I guess I didn't think about that. That could be a possibility.
She may have tuned into that.
Yep, exactly.
Because there are people, I suppose, that even though some people, think that, well, am I the only one, or this and that, sometimes with certain things, perhaps she was a little more in tune than others as well.
Maybe.
Knows?
I mean,
who knows on that one?
Well,
I didn't even think about
with
that.
the meditation, though, it opens you up.
That's actually a good way that you put it, is that she's in tune a little differently.
Yeah.
Right? Because she's at a different frequency is what's going on.
Yep. Well, see, the thing is, with meditation, if you said that you practiced the meditation in college, meditation opens up a lot of things, where it could very well be that it opened up your chakras and your energies connected with hers, is what I'm trying to say here.
Like a handshake. Like an invisible handshake. I
in
understand.
A way, yes.
I'm not big into meditation. I've never really, I know about it, obviously. I've never really followed it or done it, though. But I do understand, I grasp the understanding of it, you know what I mean? So, maybe there was a handshake there in terms of connections.
You should actually try meditation, though, Daniel, because it will actually help you a lot. It's amazing.
Nothing can help me now. Nothing. My path has been chosen.
It is amazing, though, because it seems like it completely replenishes you in a way.
Well, hey, I don't know. Maybe. I want to hear more of Joseph's story.
Yes.
If that's the case, then maybe I'll get on board.
Okay. So,
all right.
So Jose had known of this experience of mine, right?
Okay.
So what he had said to me that day, he was like, yeah, you've had these types of experience, and these beings speak by telepathy. He's saying, so if there's bad ones, there has to be good ones.
Mm-hmm.
He said, why don't you try talking to them? And
so when he said that, I'm sorry. When he said that, did he meant obviously mentally, telepathically? Why don't you try communicating with them?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was explaining from UFO contact and stuff like this.
Gotcha. Okay.
And people explaining, communicating by telepathy.
I see.
Right. So he was telling me, if you've had some weird experiences with that, why don't you try doing it?
Okay, gotcha.
So basically, through meditation, basically, is how you would connect with these beings.
Yeah, it's like connecting with your energy inside, right? And then you're tethering your energy to other energy sources.
Tether. There you go. That's a good word. That's the word I was looking for.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought about that conversation when I was about to go to bed, and I thought, you know what? It wouldn't hurt, just for shits and giggles.
Mm-hmm.
What could it hurt? So I sat down and I was thinking, I haven't meditated for a long time, and I went into the same meditation I used to do, and I I found the same energy in there, and I connected with it, and, I tethered myself off. Then I asked a question, and the question was like a two-part question, and I just thought in my mind the question. I said, if humans were attacked by a more superior race of beings, or if we were to face a global catastrophe, is there anything we could do?
Okay.
As soon as I asked that question, within a split second, I heard something. And it was so profound, it sounded like my TV coming on or somebody walking into the room. And I was about to open my eyes. But the way I was hearing it, I like quickly realized this is something different, right?
Really?
Just kind of keep doing what you're doing. Just stay relaxed.
Okay.
And I'm hearing it was a little muffled at first, but it cleared up, and it's like it was a voice. And the voice is saying something. And it's saying something very quickly, but it's a phrase. I can make out that it's a phrase that's repeating itself.
Okay.
So I'm just sitting there, and I'm kind of amazed at what's happening. But I'm trying to stay calm. I'm trying to stay in that meditative state.
Right.
And I try listening to the words, and I can only start at the beginning and like say a few words, and then wait till this phrase loops back around, and then I'd say a few more words, and then a few more words. So as I'm trying to do this, all of a sudden I start receiving, it was like a download of images, almost like imagine a computer screen going haywire.
Yeah.
It was images like that, like just coming into my head. And I was kind of startled by it. But
what were the images, if you don't mind me asking? Or do you recall?
It was some I remember were kind of biblical in nature. It was like it's kind of hard to explain. I was receiving all like a knowledge as well.
Okay.
But it's hard to explain. But the images were just like it was very random, and it was going in so fast. Like you're just seeing, like you're not really being able to see images. You know what I mean? Like you're just It's kind of But somehow after this whole experience, because it's something else happened as well. So I'll explain the biblical part after. But as I'm receiving these images, again, it startled me in the meditation when I started receiving these images. But again, I just calmed myself, and I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, I don't know what's happening, but I'm just going to stay calm and let this happen.
Right, exactly.
Right? And I'm telling myself, try to focus on those words again. And I start listening to the words as I'm receiving this download. Then the next thing that happened is I was overcome with a feeling of love that is undescribable. There's no words for it. Bliss, euphoria.
Wow.
Like there's no descriptive words. It was a warmth. If you ever listen to anybody talking about near-death experiences,
yes,
and how they say they crossed over to a place and they felt very warm and welcome and just full of love.
Yeah.
Okay, I can relate to that feeling. What they're trying to describe, it's euphoric, it's warm, it's welcoming, it's
utter
comforting.
joy.
That's right. It's a total bliss, and it was so extreme that any slouching I was doing as I was sitting there meditating, I sat right up straight. My muscles swelled up. It was almost like an adrenaline rush.
Okay.
But it was just this pure bliss feeling.
It sounds like you may have opened your third eye.
Possible.
I don't know what happened, but I was just allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
And I started listening to the words again, and I'm picking up more and more of the phrase. Once I had completed the whole phrase, it's like the download stopped, and the feeling just kind of like, it released me a bit. Okay. And I'll say only a bit because I stayed in this blissful feeling like that whole night, the whole next day, right? For probably 3 or 4 days afterwards, somebody could have literally punched me in the face and I would have looked at them and smiled and just said, brother, like, why did you do that?
Wow.
Like, I love you so much, right? Like, it made me, it actually, this feeling was so intense, it made me love everybody in the world. Everybody.
Really?
Because one of the things I walked away with, like, the whole thing subsided, right? And I was just like, wow, like, what was that?
Yeah.
When I opened my eyes, now, this was really cool. When I opened my eyes, it's like the visual spectrum had changed.
Huh.
And at first I thought I was seeing things blurry, and I'm trying to adjust my eyes, but I'm looking, and it's like I'm seeing something in its solid state, but I'm also seeing it in an energetic state.
Okay.
And this was like immediately when I opened my eyes up, and this lasted for a couple of minutes before I couldn't see that energy type of holographic, right? So I don't know if something opened up my visual spectrum for a moment and allowed me to see something different.
So to see beyond perhaps the how can I put this, the realm that you're in, that you're physically in, you could see beyond that?
Well, it's almost like allowing me to see the metaphysical world.
Okay.
For a moment.
Yeah.
Right? And what that allowing me to see did for me is it changed all perspective of reality.
Okay.
Because you know, to talk about that, you got to get into beliefs and stuff. But like, everything in my life has changed after that. Everything, how I perceive everything, and you know, this carries on for a while.
Was this a gradual thing? Was this a gradual thing, Joseph?
No, this was just a sudden thing. This was what happened on the first night of this. Right?
Wow.
No.
Okay.
The next day, I went into work, and I get in the truck with Jose, and when we're leaving the yard, I'm telling him, I'm saying, Jose, I did what you said, you know, like what we talked about. I meditated, and I asked that question, and something happened. Something talked to me.
Yeah.
And he's kind of looking at me like with this big smile, like I'm pulling his leg, right? And he's like, he's kind of like, yeah, right. Come on. Yeah. And I'm like, no, really, Jose, something really did happen. And I started explaining it to him, and like what I just explained to you now about how the events happened and stuff. And he's still just kind of looking at me kind of weird, right? He's like, yeah, come on, man.
Right,
you know?
right.
And I was like, you know, because we had been talking about it and stuff like this, right? He's like, come on, man. I said, no, really, something happened. So this kind of conversation carried on all day. But what was cool that I told him on that first day is I said, but it wasn't extraterrestrials. I said it was God.
Really?
And he's going, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, he's looking at me strange. He's like, dude, you know, you're not religious. What are you talking about? God. And I'm telling him, I'm saying, in the Bible, it's a history book. And he's looking at me like, what are you talking about? And I said, I don't know. They downloaded something to me, and I have this knowledge now that the Bible is a telling of history for whatever reason. He's going, yeah, right. And I'm telling him, it's like Jose, and I'm explaining the feeling, right? And
Yeah.
I'm telling him, like, I still feel it. I'm telling him, I'm like, dude, it feels like another presence has jumped inside of me.
So you have
Right?
like a whole new understanding, essentially.
Yes, it's a total change of reality. And I had this knowledge of stuff that I didn't have knowledge to before. Like stuff I had never looked at, never really thought about. And so throughout the day, he's just kind of looking at me like really strange, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, by the end of the day, this is what's cool, is he's looking at me at the end of the day, he goes, something happened to you. And I'm going, Jose, I've been telling you this the whole day, man.
Right.
Why are you saying this now? Right? Why are you saying this now at the end of the day? And he's like, because you're different. He says, the words you're using are different, your mannerism, how you're acting. He's going, it's still you, but it's not you. He's going, I don't know what's going on. It's weird. And I'm telling him, I'm trying to say that it's like, it feels like a spirit or something has jumped inside of me.
So this was completely visible. Completely visible to other people, especially Jose. He could look at you and speak
like
to you.
Even our mutual friend Chris Hale from White House.
Yes, yes.
Now I've been friends with him since I went to college, since before I went to college, right? And you know, he'll even say like, "Yeah, I was a different person before this than I am after this."
Wow.
So that was at the end of the first day, and me and Jose's joking around, and he's going, "Okay, you got to do it again." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
He's going, "Do it." He's going, "Do it again." He's going, "People that make contact, you know, they say if you keep doing it, you'll keep in contact with them." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to try it." Right? At first, I'm joking with him. I'm like, "No way, you try it, man. That's freaking me out. What happened?" Right?
Yeah, right.
Like I'm still in shock from it. So, wouldn't you know it, the second night, I went back, I meditated again, and I tethered myself again, and I had an open conversation this time. It wasn't just a voice repeating a phrase like the first day, but it was like a conversation like how we're having now.
So you're telling me now that you're actually conversating. You're like you just said, me and you now. You are speaking mentally. Telepathy.
Yeah, like if I like so when I tethered myself, and I the way telepathy works is like to think the thought and cast it out with your mind.
Right.
It's like you create an energy path for that thought to travel along. And like I had a greater understanding of all of this when I was doing these meditations and in contact with them. It's like they gave me the knowledge of it. It's kind of weird. It's like I didn't know it, and then all of a sudden I knew it. So I knew how to communicate. So the second night, it's like I just asked, "Are you there?" And I receive a reply, "Yes."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, just started having some conversation.
Who at first did you think you were communicating with?
God.
So your first thought was God.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's because of the way after that first night, I had this realization of the Bible or of the Gospels, and this being overcome with love, right? And just receiving knowledge from absolutely thin air.
There's something to that, yeah.
That's right. So, but it was the feeling of love, that warmth, right? So I was like, it's God. It has to be God. So what I noticed on the following nights, because I ended up doing this every night for about a solid 3 weeks. And I would say I spoke to at least seven or eight different personalities. And that was kind of something. So like let's say the person the being that I spoke to on the first night may have been the same being on the second night and the third night. But then all of a sudden, it's like it's the same voice, but a different personality using it, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Okay.
Like if you could imagine that. So and I could tell they were different personalities because some would be, I would say, more feminine because they were more kind of understanding and guiding rather than being direct, right, in communication. Like, for instance, one, I'm going to say it was a guy, and he seemed grumpy. Like he almost seemed like he didn't want to be doing this. You know, and his answers were very abrupt. So I had asked him a question about something, and the answer I got in response was, "You already know." And I'm like, "What? You already know?" like, this is the way the communication was. And I'm like, well, if I already know, why am I asking the question?
Yeah.
Right? Then it's like I received, the way they communicate is very, very strange, because they can, so first they can speak to you.
Okay.
But they can also send you information. As weird as that sounds, they could send you knowledge. So you could ask about something, and rather than them take an hour to try and explain it, which you may not understand, it's like they can put the knowledge in your head, and you instantly understand it.
Wow. Like,
Right? So
like
they-
a computer download, instantaneous.
Yeah, and also they can send telepathic imagery, which is really cool. It's like if I were able to send you a memory, and you could look at one of my memories like through my eyes or through my perspective,
Right.
and look at one of my memories, and it would play out, and it plays out almost like a little mini movie. Like it's like you're looking at somebody's memory, you know.
That's
And-
amazing. Okay.
Yeah, like I did this for a good 3 weeks with these beings, and you know, and I'm telling people, and people's laughing, people's calling me crazy, people at work, and mind you, I'm working in a construction company, right?
Yeah.
Like these are construction guys and stuff, and they're all laughing at me. They're calling me Alien Joe, and you know,
Oh, I can
the
imagine.
guy thinks
I can
he's
imagine.
talking with-
I've been through it.
Yeah, so, but it was actually really cool though. So I just kind of ignored it for a while, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the experience that happened, like in early January of 2017.
Okay.
And like I say, it changed everything about me. It changed. It's like I was able to see the metaphysical world is a good way to put it, and
Okay.
not only but to see it, but to kind of understand it.
Do you think
Yeah.
that, you know, and obviously this is just the tip of the iceberg, but do you think this was the start of something bigger? Something...
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
It's
okay.
like, I had an instant awareness, like through all of this and stuff, and I was relating a lot of information over to Jose, right? Because every night I was talking with them, I was telling Jose about it the next day, and we would have conversations about it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of the things that I've seen and I'm aware of is the human connection of the soul. I was able to see that. It's like they showed me it in a vision, how we're all connected with these tethers, but we're all connected to the same consciousness,
Yeah.
right? It's feeding all of us. And behind the scenes, like, we're dealing with the physical reality, but behind the scenes, there's other stuff going on, right? Like,
Right. What was...
I think right now, humanity, I think, is on a step to take a huge step consciously and spiritually.
Okay.
You know, like, that's where I think everything is heading from my perspective.
Now, are these thoughts, for example, what you just said, is this directly related to what you were communicating with these, with what you thought was God, perhaps?
Well, I'll give you an example. So, one of the conversations, they were telling me about a collective consciousness.
Okay.
That's what they called it. So the next day at work, I told Jose, I said, yeah, we need to build a collective consciousness. That's the answer to the question of, is there something humans could do? When I asked about if we were, you know, having a catastrophe or being attacked or something, well, that collective consciousness was the answer. And Jose's saying, well, what is it? I said, I don't know. But that's what they're telling me.
Interesting.
You know, so I had to go back and have conversations with them. What is this collective consciousness? And it's about connecting our metaphysical selves, our energy selves, the energy bodies that we are, connecting them through consciousness.
Huh.
You know, that's what the collective is all about.
Wow. Okay. So how long? You said this happened for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Did it continue further after that? Did they actually at one point maybe contact you without you trying to contact them, or perhaps?
Actually, it was interesting that you mentioned that. There were times I could be doing something, like when I was at home, I could be sitting and watching a program, and it was almost like I was being summoned.
Really?
So it's interesting that now, what I remember telling Jose, because during those types of callings, though, it wasn't to communicate to me, but I was channeling energy. They were teaching me about channeling energy. And I was telling Jose about this experience, and I said, it almost seems like I'm a chalice where energy's coming in and I'm sending it back out. And it feels like I'm part of a grid. And I get called to do it. It's almost like I just have this overwhelming, like, insight, intuition, something saying, like, do that meditation right now.
Yeah.
And do these energy works. And it was like I was being called into a part of some grid or something of energy. And Jose is like, well, what is it? I said, I don't know, right? I'm a part of something. I'm a part of some energy grid. And they're changing frequency. And this is what they were showing me. So they allowed me, I don't know, now my own personal interpretation is perhaps they were trying to allow me to see how to be a part of these grids, these energy grids.
Okay.
You know, because part of that is all part of, you know, us connecting as our spiritual self, right? The higher self, the energy selves that we are.
Were you sent information or communicate about perhaps, say, other beings in the universe, the galaxy, things of that type of nature, extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings, things of that nature?
Not so much that I was told about other races. I would have to say I was kind of given an awareness that there's a community out there.
Okay.
Like, you know, like different beings. And yeah.
So, okay. So now, after all these events took place, now the first initial communication and all that, in what ways did it change exactly? Because you said it changed your perspective on things. In what ways did it change your perspective on things? What changed with you yourself, Joseph? Joseph, you there? I'm sorry, Joseph, are you still there?
No, I think we lost him.
Oh, boy. Well, look at that. I think we lost Joseph. And it looks like we sure did, folks. And we've been having these issues now for the past couple of weeks, especially this past week. So let's try to get Joseph back on the phone. Let's see if we can do that. Joseph, if you're still listening, call the show back. Let me send Joseph a message here quickly. We do apologize, folks, but this has been happening. This has been happening up here for the past week. You know, I'm pretty sure, it has to do with the CME that was headed our direction and hit earlier this week.
Well, we still have internet, so it's not that.
Well, somehow he had dropped. Let's go ahead here. I'm going to tell him to call back the show if he can.
He's not getting uncomfortable, is he?
No, I highly doubt that. He's writing now. Let's see. Yep, he got cut off.
Okay.
Okay, so
Huh.
let's see. He's going to call back here. But so far, what he's talking about. What do you think about what he's talking about here? I mean, these experiences. You've heard similar things, but
to me, I think me being actually a contactee and everything like that, I think what he's talking about is that he opened up his third eye and he allowed the higher power to connect with him.
What do you mean by third eye? Explain that to people that might not understand.
Okay, so when you are in a deep meditation state, you have your chakras you have to go through and open up. After you open up all your chakras, then there is something called a third eye or an intuition that helps open up to the higher realms, basically.
Okay.
And I think that's what he did. I think he opened that up, and a lot of people can open it up if they are very, very concentrated in their meditation and very vigilant in their meditation, like have it left, don't miss any days, do it all the time and stuff like that. You can actually do it because it's in all of us. So I think what happened is he opened himself up to the higher powers, and the thing is with that is you can channel anything. And with the ET part, these beings or whatever that he has so-called channeled and has talked to him and things like that, communicated with him, it could very well be they chose to do that because he may, in general, just have a high energy.
Right. I'm talking to Joe here. He is attempting to call back in, and he cannot get through. So how about that? How many times have we experienced something like that on the show?
Yeah, that's strange.
Where
it almost seems like whenever we get somewhere very good in the show, it's like somebody doesn't want us to talk anymore.
It does.
Yeah.
It really does.
Are we still live with our show?
We're still on. Here we go.
Oh, here we go.
I think we got Joe back. Yeah, there. Okay, Joe's right there. Okay, hello, Joseph. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
I don't know what
goodness.
happened there.
Yeah, you know what? We're not surprised anymore.
No.
When we start getting in depth on intriguing subjects, something happens
it's like
where
something's
communication
listening to
drops
us.
off.
It's like something's listened to us and don't want us to go any further on the information that we know.
It feels that way at times. Okay, I'm sorry, Joseph. Go ahead now. Let's pick up where you left off there.
Where was I?
Okay, so I think I just had asked you, what changed you? What changed Joseph after the initial communications?
Well, everything, the whole perception of reality. A lot of people say, like, seeing is believing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not true, right? Believing is believing. When you see something, that's confirmation of a belief.
Right.
Right? So when you see something, you enter into this different space. And there's different levels of, acceptance of stuff. For instance, take UFOs.
Okay.
Now, so somebody with no encounters has the choice of saying, I believe or I don't believe. Well, now even you have governments coming out, though, fully admitting their existence. So it's a little harder now for people to even have that choice of saying, I believe or don't believe.
Right.
Right? Now, for somebody that sees them, sees a UFO and has an experience, and there's different levels of that. but they're going to have a more of an acceptance. Where the possibility of them to say, I don't believe it, that's going out the window.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then you have like an experience like mine. Now I've seen the UFOs in the sky. I can get to that after because we haven't talked about that yet.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But shoot, lost what I was talking about. Sorry, man.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. No problem. So we were talking about, like I said,
So somebody that say had my experience.
Okay.
Well, I may be more accepting of a different reality than say somebody who's seen just a UFO.
Okay.
Now let's take somebody who's an abductee. Somebody who's been on these crafts with these beings. You're not going to tell those people it didn't happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? They have no option of saying I don't believe, right? Because they have experienced it. So I look at all these different levels of, belief, but seeing is not believing, right? Seeing is taking you over that leap of faith of belief, and you've had a confirmation. So now you're looking at stuff differently because you know something else is there.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like whether other people see it or experience it or not, you've seen it. You go into a different space of belief and understanding of that.
Correct.
So with my experience, it's like I feel energy. I feel it now. I feel this other world because I know it's there, and I'm open. It's almost like something opened in my consciousness that doesn't want to close back up again. It doesn't want this other reality to go back invisible. So
Yeah.
it's like something's allowing me to like feel energy, right? Like feeling everything. So when you're looking at something, you're not just getting the visual, but you're getting a feeling with it. Like it's a more complete perception, if I could explain it like that.
Okay, understood.
So like an awakening in a way.
Yeah, like a real spiritual awakening. Like
Yep. So
Go ahead, Joe.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
So why do you think they have chose to communicate with you?
I have no idea. I have some ideas. I have, according to them, things. So in my communications with them, because it lasted, for about 3 weeks, a lot of that was me asking them about who are they and who am I.
Questions, yeah.
But those are I don't really know if I want to share that aspect of things with people.
Right.
About what
Understandable.
they were saying, right, about what they were saying about me, because it kind of goes to your question, though, Jennifer. Like, why did they choose me? Well, maybe I could say it like this. Maybe it was always a part of a plan.
Okay, so like your mission.
Yeah, and this goes back into my childhood again, because part of when I was asking them, okay, so let me go back to the first night. Let me explain it like this,
Okay.
because this kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The phrase that was said the first night, the phrase that repeated itself over and over again. This was the phrase:
Okay.
I am what I am.
Yes,
I cannot be someone else.
Yep.
Hello? What?
Yep.
Okay, so this was the phrase: I am what I am. I cannot be someone else, so I must accept that I am me. They are themselves. They cannot be someone else, so I must accept that they are them.
Wow.
Respect them as you wish for respect.
That-
So even that phrase had really deep meaning to me. Right? It's like good thing to understand. It's a good way to look at things.
Mm-hmm.
But what freaked me out about that phrase, now me being at the time ignorant of the Bible, I had never read the Bible.
Right.
Right? And I'll say this about the gospel, is a lot of people have the idea of it's fantasy and fairy tales,
Yeah.
which was my opinion too, and I had never read it. And I think a lot of people have that opinion without having ever read it as well,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a stereotype. So, but regardless, I'm guilty of it. And I didn't know the gospel at the time. But a few days into this event, just randomly, I was scrolling through memes, and I see a meme come up, and it had the phrase, "I am what I am." And it was making reference to God, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was making reference to God. So I was
Right.
like, what was this? Right? So I go into Google, and I'm like, okay, find in the Bible for me where it says, "I am that I am." And it comes to the story of the burning bush, right? When God called to Moses and says, go and get the people out of Egypt. And when Moses says, well, you know, who should I say is sending me? Right? What's your name? That's what God said. I am what I am.
Right.
So this was kind of like confirming what I had said to Jose, right? Like, and this is a couple days later. Like, I kept connecting the dots of things that were. That's another way of communicating as well, is through synchronicities,
Yeah.
right? Because we're all connected to the same
Right.
the same consciousness. And there can be synchronicities where they purposely line things up. You know what I mean? Like there's something more divine. There's something more divine that's structuring us all through the tethers, right? We're all tethered,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
but we don't see it. So we're not looking at it, but it's a second world.
Right.
And it's right here with us. We're all a part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, that was confirming to me, like this was God that spoke to me.
Okay, so that's
Right,
that's
right.
where now I've
Yeah.
made the connection there.
So here's where this gets interesting. So a few weeks after, I'm going to get back to the story of my experience,
Mm-hmm.
because a few weeks later, Jose shows me something on his phone, and he asked me this, and people could look this up. I would encourage people to. It's really fascinating.
Okay.
He says, have you ever heard of Prophet Yahweh?
Oh,
And I'm
Prophet
like,
Yahweh.
no, who's
Yahweh.
that?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I say, who's that? He says, well, he's a guy, and he calls UFOs. And I'm like, what? So we're looking at these videos, and I'm watching this guy out in Las Vegas, and he's doing this. And what this guy is saying.
Are we talking about? He's actually a friend of mine. You're not talking about Steve Byron, are you?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Okay, I was just curious.
Well, this was an older guy, larger guy. But anyways, I'm watching this guy do this, and he's now Yahweh happens to be the name of God. And what
Yeah.
this guy is saying,
Yeah.
he's going like,
Exactly.
these beings are here, right? And he's like, I am the seer of Yahweh. So there was even, if people were to go on YouTube and look up Prophet Yahweh, ABC News, you'll see that this guy was on mainstream news. They sent a reporter out to him, right? And the news picked the place, they picked the time, right? This guy showed up. He summoned a UFO right there in the middle of the daytime.
Huh.
And an orb is showing up, right? So again, I'm connecting the dots though with UFOs, Yahweh being God talking to me. So I'm starting to, the wheels are turning in my head, and I'm like, are they one and the same? Because originally I was trying to talk to some star people. I wasn't trying to talk to God.
That is.
So I'm saying,
I wanted to say real quick that is so interesting, because I have, I'm a shortwave enthusiast. I have multiple shortwave equipment, And, at nighttime I listen to Random Frequencies, and there is a broadcast, I do believe, out of the northeast of the United States from two gentlemen. And they speak about the coming of the end of the world. And they refer to Yahweh constantly. And that is the first time that as a matter of fact, I just told Jennifer that it was another name for God.
Yep.
And that is the first time you, sir, that I've heard from another person actually know about that. So I thought that was very curious.
Well,
Yeah, so
I think
Go
what's
ahead,
happening. I think what's happening is that so God created the heavens and everything else above the heaven. Everything else that hosts them, basically. So they from what we know is that God is the creator, the main creator, and created everything, the whole world, universe, everything. Right? Okay. Well, here's the thing: if you talk to a lot of psychics or mystic scientists and stuff like that, they're going to tell you a different story. They're going to tell you that
I think everybody has a different tone.
they're going to tell you that yes, God did create part of the universe, but there's one more thing that is above God, and that is the Galactic Federation. The Galactic Federation is part of God in a sense, but they're actually higher than God. So you've got basically the realm, is you've got us here on Earth, and then there's the middle realm, which is the spiritual guides, that you channel and everything like that.
You're going to have to explain that Galactic Federation.
The third realm is supposedly supposed to be God, and way up on the fourth one is way up on the highest realm is supposedly supposed to be the Galactic Federation. Now, the Galactic Federation is the alien races, is the Galactic Federation.
So like a collective, is what you're saying?
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
So when you said that you think that you actually may have channeled God, I do believe that you may have channeled God, but I also do believe that you may have actually channeled into the star beings as well, because they are connected to God.
Well,
hey, who knows? Go ahead, Joseph.
So if I were to explain it, from having this experience and my perception of everything, because I did see them.
Right.
So I started making the connections, because at first, when I said they were telling me about them and they were telling me about me, like one of the things they said to me directly, and they said, we are what humans perceive as God and angels.
Really?
A race that created you, right? Now they told me this directly. So I'm relating this to what I assumed from like
Anunnaki is the first thing that comes to mind.
Listening to people refer to God. So I started looking into it more. And what my conclusion is I feel like we need to define the use of the word God as to what we are making reference. Are we making reference to something that created me, like us, or something that created all things? Now, we are a part of all things, right? But did something in between that all and us actually create us?
See,
I knew
this was going to get deep.
Yeah,
I knew.
This
is good stuff.
And that may be, that may be an answer that we may not, or that may be a question that we may not ever get an answer to.
Well, I mean, it's a possibility. But
people have tried to figure that out for many, many years, and I think that the only people that have gotten close are actually the people that have the near-death experiences.
Well, possibly, but I think the other people are people like Joseph. So I gotta hear what else to say here.
Yeah.
Well, so for me, like me personally. So I started looking into religions and how religions look at God and define God, and try to get a perspective from the religion, from that religion and what they teach and what their understanding of God is. Right?
Right.
Now, the one I found interesting, because part of this communication with them, they were showing me stuff, and part of that is like dimensions and like weird stuff to do with energies and stuff. But with that knowledge, I look at the Hindu religion, which is one of the oldest religions.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, in the Hindu religion, the gods, what are referred to as God, is the physical gods. And above them, like what you're talking about, Jennifer, is, and what people talk about in spirituality, or my understanding, is source energy.
Yeah.
Which in Hindu is the Brahman, which is the energy source from which all matter comes. So I know, like, everything is existing in different dimensional levels.
Yeah.
Well, what's creating all of those different dimensional levels is my next question, right?
Yeah.
That's the Brahman. That's the source energy, right? That's the consciousness that we're all tethered to, right?
Right.
It is the all. It's what we all are. But to define the word God, is that defining the creator of all things, or is it the creator of the human race? So it's really how we want to define God.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If we
Multiple
look at,
ways.
when you look at the physical evidence on Earth, look at all the Aboriginals.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these are people from all different parts of indigenous peoples, all different parts of the world. Going back thousands of years, they weren't in communication with each other. But where did they say we came from? The oldest understandings are the star people
Yeah.
came down and put us here and gave us knowledge, right? And what's interesting, going back to multiple races, you'll have different Aboriginals pointing at different star sets, like in the Polynesian islands, they may say, well, we came from the Pleiades. It was the Palladian beings.
Yeah.
Right? And another culture says, no, it was Orion. Right? And then, another tribe says, no, it was Sirius B. Well, they're all, the main story is the same. It was these star people that came down. Was it different races? Right? We got to ask that question. Was it different races, and does that explain the different races of humans? Right? Maybe they were trying different experiments, a little bit of DNA here, a little bit of this DNA there, right? Change them up, put them in different parts of the world. It's when you start looking at it like that. So anyways, back to my experience, I started piecing this together, and I'm starting to say, well, wait a minute. Are star beings God? And are they the ones that communicated with me, that I'm communicating with?
Yeah.
So after watching Prophet Yahweh, I figured I'm connected to them. All he's doing is asking for a sighting, right? So I tried it, and it didn't work. And the next night I tried it again, and it didn't work. And then I tried it a few more times, and it didn't work. So I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So I didn't try maybe for a couple of days. I try again. It doesn't work. I think around my sixth time trying it, I was outside, and I went into a meditation. I was asking them for a sighting, and the way you do it is when you project up an asking, you can ask them for a sighting. Then open your eyes up, and an important key to that is when you're asking them, send love. That's a key thing, right? So when you're sitting there and you do a little meditation, feel love. Think about something that you love, and you want to send them that feeling, right, along with the request. And I did it. I was waiting. I'm waiting. And then once you send that up, look up into the sky and fixate, almost like you go into a daze, like a daydream, and just kind of stare off into one spot. And keep repeating in your mind, this is where I'm at, right? Please come to this location. That's the phrase I kept repeating, right? This is where I'm at. Please come to this location. I was out there for 10 or 15 minutes, still nothing. And then right at the end, I was about to go in, but I'm still looking up. And my last thought to them was, I know you're up there because I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Right? I just want to see you. And if you don't want to show yourself tonight, that's okay. I want you to know that I love you anyways. As soon as I said that, as soon as I thought that, a big flash, exactly where I was looking at. And it was like a big square flash of light, almost like a camera flash, just out of nowhere. And the way it happened, it was kind of cool because the light came down. It's hard to explain, but it's like it came from a point and it came down and it expanded in a square. And then it shot back up to the point and went back out. And when that happened, I just had this biggest smile and I just sent them a thank you. You know, I sent them my gratitude, like, thank you for showing me, for making this clear, because I was thinking, is it God? Is it star beings?
Right.
Or is it one and the same? Well, this was giving me the confirmation, because for me, I'm still talking to God and the angels. But when I asked to see them, what do I see in the sky? Well, there's something up there.
That's
right.
Yeah.
And then
I was gonna ask real quick here, Joseph. We're coming up against our break here. You're on new music now tonight. I had made mention in the promos and have told people. The song is "Rise." This has to do with what you're talking about, correct?
Yes. It's about stepping into an unknown space of consciousness and trying to do something there. It's like taking a leap of faith, right? But it's about everybody coming together. Because here's the thing, to go into this space, it doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter one bit. Doesn't matter what color you are. Doesn't matter what religion you are.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with any of that, right? It's like, I don't care who we are to get up to the point of belief. Who are we going to be to step over that belief? To say, hey, we know we have to do something. Look at the world. Look at the state of the world. We have to do something. What are we going to do? Right? There's a point where we've got to get past our belief. And instead of saying, I have a soul body, or I believe I have a soul, I believe I have an energy body. So the things that I was showed, it showed me past that belief. So it's not like for me to define myself, and I say, well, what am I? Well, I'm a biological body. Mm-hmm. And should I say, I believe I have a soul? I believe I have an energy body? Right? I don't believe it anymore. I know it. I've seen it. I've felt it. I've experienced it. I'm still experiencing it. Right? So for me to describe myself, I say, well, I'm two. I'm the physical, but I'm also an energy body and a light body and a conscious body. And it's a separate body, but it's all the same body. Right? But it's a totally different part of who we are. Right? And to connect with the souls, it doesn't matter anything about the physical, however we want to describe ourselves, because within that connection, we're going into a different space in consciousness where we're all the same. There's no difference. We are all the same.
Right. Yeah, without question.
Right? So the song Rise, it's about just reflecting on, it's a bit political. It's a bit about deceit, being lied to.
Okay.
And but it's about people coming together consciously and spiritually and rise and rise up, right?
Wow. Okay. Well, you know what? We're gonna throw that on for people right now. We're gonna
well,
get that.
It's meant to lift people's spirits, and I hope that's the feeling people get from it.
Absolutely, I'm sure they will. We're gonna play it, and now this is the first time that you've actually played this song outside of your friend group. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Nobody's heard this. I tend to keep my music to myself.
Okay.
I don't really put it out on display anywhere. I just do music for the love of the music, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, no. This year, your audience, anybody who's listening right now, this is the first time the world is ever hearing the song "Rise."
Okay, we're going to do that. I want you to hang around. We're going to put you on pause there just for a little bit, and we're going to get to this song, Rise, and then come back with more conversation with you. How about that?
All right, it sounds good, brother.
Okay, stand by. Okay, folks, we are going to do just that. We are going to listen to NTR New Music Now, which features Joe Chase and his song Rise, which has a lot to do with what we're talking about tonight. I hope everybody is enjoying the show and learning something new. We have much more coming up. We'll be right back here on Night Talks Radio, Episode 3, One Man's Journey.
Guard down for someone like me. I'd say I'm settled.
Hey everyone, this is Joe Chase, tonight's Night Talks Radio's guest, and something we haven't mentioned yet is I'm also a singer-songwriter. So coming up next is a song that I wrote called Rise. You are all hearing it first, right here only on NTR's New Music Now. Then stay tuned and we're going to jump back into this conversation during the second hour of NTR. So have a listen. I love you all and thank you all for tuning in tonight.
Join the people Just rise up to the sky. Raise your hands towards the sun. Oh, we're gonna rise up to the sky. And when we rise, we're gonna rise as one. We're gonna rise as one. We're gonna rise as one.
Want to reach Night Talks Radio? That's easy. Simply dial 1-507-384-9390. Or, for first-time callers, just dial 1-507-307-4424. From somewhere in the great upper Midwest, here's Daniel Brewer and Jennifer Gregerson.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Night Talks Radio, Hour 2 of our conversation with Joe Chase. Joseph, he is speaking about his experiences that he had communicating with what may be God, with what may be aliens, with what maybe we don't know. So we're trying to figure that all out amongst many other things, and you just heard the song Rise, which, by the way, was a wonderful song, and I'm sure Joseph will have information for you later on if perhaps you'd like to have that song to yourself. We can discuss that as well. So, Joseph, are you there?
Yeah, right here.
Okay, yeah, we just heard that song Rise. Great song, man. I mean, wow.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was a really good song.
Surprisingly well. I mean, it's you're multi-talented. I'll put it that way.
Maybe you have a different direction to go to.
Many different directions, it may seem, eh? But yeah, let's get back into the conversation. And you know what? I can already tell. I think we spoke about this before. This is going to be a two-parter, folks, because we are already going into. It's going to be hour 3 pretty soon here. So we're looking at a two-parter. Joseph, you're gonna come back for that part 2, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Excellent. Because I know you have,
like right now. I'm just sharing the experience that I had because I find it so profound. But I would love to get into discussions about the information received during all of this, right? And just how it all changed my perception, like it's changed who I am as a person, like everything.
I sit here just wanting more. So a part 2 is going to have to come from this. But right now, as you said, we're listening to the experiences that originally took place from this. And before the break, you were talking about something. If you want to continue with that. Otherwise, I do have another question for you, but it's completely up to you, Joe.
Go ahead, ask away.
Okay. Well, my first question was going to be, was it brought up to you in any type of way? I know things relating directly to you, you don't really want to discuss at this point, but was it brought up to you at any point about what is going to happen to the human race as a whole in the future? Was that ever brought up?
Okay, I'll talk about that because but I'll warn you, it's a bit disturbing. And when I first when I was first talking about it to people, people didn't like it. It didn't have a good rapport. But nonetheless, it's part of the story, and it is important to talk about that.
Yes, indeed.
So in around the this was actually interesting because I got myself into something. So in around maybe the third or fourth night of communications with them, they showed me something. It was like again, like looking at a memory of someone that was there, and I'm looking at something through someone else's eyes.
Okay.
And it was like a little mini movie that started playing, and it was a massive destruction.
Really?
And there was like fireballs coming down, and there was like buildings falling over, and people running and screaming. It was like something out of a horror movie, and I'm watching this, and as I'm in this meditation, I'm actually crying because I'm not only seeing it, I'm feeling it.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm sitting in my meditation, and I'm crying, like there's tears running down my face, and I'm asking them, why are you showing me this?
Yeah.
And they said, this is what's coming to Earth.
What?
And I said, I was asking them, why is this coming? And they made me understand things. They kind of were telling me it's a natural occurrence. And they made me understand
It's a
something to do
natural
with,
occurrence.
Yeah.
That could be a key word,
Yeah.
a natural. Okay.
Well, yeah, I could get into that. So, okay, let's talk about the natural occurrence for a minute. So
Okay.
what they kind of showed me, and they gave me this information as a part of this explaining to me, is that the Earth goes through like life cycles.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's a catastrophic event at the beginning or at the ending of a life cycle. So if you could imagine something striking the Earth, a meteor shower,
Okay.
like what killed the dinosaurs, right? And we have evidence of large impact craters around the Earth.
Oh yeah.
Well, were these extinction level events, right?
Right.
And the time in between the catastrophe, which is, thousands and thousands of years, they come down and they prep the planet and they seed the planet with a race of beings, right? And they, like I call it, life cycles of Earth. But this is just something that they were showing to me and explaining to me to say, like, this is a natural thing that happens, that it's like Halley's Comet going by, right?
Right,
Well, this is a different occurrence. So, anyways, where I'm kind of messed up, well, I don't know if I messed up or not, in this, it was weird, but they asked me, they said, would you prevent this from happening if you could?
Would you?
Would you stop this?
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're asking me that. They're saying, would you stop this if you would? Or if you could. And I said, yeah, absolutely. Then they asked something else. They said, would you be willing to die to stop this? And
Wow.
I paused at that question. I really did. And I'm thinking about the world. I'm thinking of the corruption. I'm thinking about the murderers and the thieves. And
Of course.
But then I thought about my daughter. And I thought about my family. And I thought about my friends. And it's like they're all a part of the world too.
Correct.
Right? So it's like if you ask any parent, would you die for your child?
Right.
Most parents are going to say, yeah.
Oh, without question.
Right? Well, I was kind of being put on the spot with that question. So when I thought about my daughter and how she's a part of everything else, I answered yes. And looking back later on, like maybe I wasn't aware at the time, but it's like I'm making some type of soul agreement with God.
Yeah.
Right? Because like when and like I say now, to be clear, when I refer to God, I'm referring to a race of star beings, right? I understand there's something beyond that. There's source energy, and
Yes.
like there's the Brahman, and that has to do with everything that is. But to me, this is God, and I made some type of agreement with God, right? That I was going to do what I'm doing right now, which is talk about this.
To get it
Right,
out
to-
there,
to-
to let people know.
Yeah. Yeah, and like one thing I'm supposed to do is talk about the gospel. But now it took me well over a year before I bought a Bible from the time that this happened to me. But anyways, let's not get too far.
Right,
Let's
right.
go back to this destruction. Let's go back to the destruction.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, I said yes to that question. And after that, I went and actually I Google searched so I could see Revelations. And I'm reading Revelations, and it's talking about rocks of fire and blood raining down upon the earth and stuff. And I'm like,
That's
this
right.
is what I
It
was
sure
looking
does.
at. This is what I was looking at. Like, so, yeah, like it's just a phenomenal experience. And then when I finally did read a Bible, I pick up a Bible, and I start reading it, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is a totally different story from what I thought it was.
So,
Right,
so
because
you're saying from what they told you versus what you read in Revelations were two different things?
No.
Oh, okay.
Like I'm saying the idea of God being a fictitious, imaginary, as some skeptics will say, like an invisible magic man living in the clouds.
Right, of course.
That's not what I was reading in the gospel. What I started reading was a very clear story about these physical beings. Right? So and people will say, well, the gospel is open for interpretation. Well, I was showed a very different way of reading it. Right?
So a different aspect, a different angle.
Well, the gospel,
Yeah,
or
and-
even so, the Bible has been written several different times. It's not really in its normal context that it was originally supposed to be at.
Well, like I say, there's certain things that jumped right out at me,
Yeah,
which tells a very, very different story.
right.
Right,
And then
and,
you're probably actually reading it how it was supposed to be put out there, but because for some reason the human race wants to throw in all this different type of religion and everything like that, and change the Bible and the context of it and wording and everything.
Well-
that's probably where that went wrong.
Just like all things through time and history, it ultimately changes, okay, from what it was originally meant to be.
Right, but
Okay.
I'm saying is he's probably actually reading it how it originally was supposed to be.
Could very well have been. I don't, I'm not going to say that that's the case or not, but what I'm saying is, things do change from hand to hand as time goes by. Okay, so that's
Yes,
a little,
and I mean,
a
I
little
have-
side subject there.
I
but
have nothing against that, but I'm just saying that what he was seen and shown how to read the Bible is probably the original way, the way it was supposed to be done.
It could,
That's what I'm saying.
okay, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So what he was being told is the original outlook, is what
Yes.
you're saying. Okay,
Correct.
I understand that. Okay.
Correct.
Please continue, Joseph.
Yeah, and it's actually, yes, they're both right. It's like I was, okay, so let me go back to the experience.
Yes.
So one thing they told me one night is they showed me how to heal, and they said you have the gift of healing, and it's basically a transfer of energy. We're all energy beings,
Yep.
and it's just channeling certain energies in and through you and into somebody else.
Yep.
So they told me, they said you have the gift of healing and the gift of literature.
Oh,
Literature.
And I remember,
literature. Okay.
and I remember I was telling Jose about this, and he's going, the gift of literature, what's that? I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the ability to take these visions and stuff that they're showing me
Like,
and be able to transfer it to words. Right? That's
Okay.
what I was thought of. That's what I thought it meant. The gift of literature, right? Is to be able to, you know,
you're
put
able
into-
to
put
understand
into-
the true meaning, perhaps.
No,
well,
no.
the visions. I thought it had to do with the visions they were sending me, like I say about seeing somebody's memory
Ah,
and being able to, or like what they were showing me with dimensions and stuff, and being able to transfer the knowledge into words. That's what I thought they were talking about. The
Okay.
gift of literature. I didn't know. I didn't have a clue. When I started reading the Bible, that's when I said, "Oh, now I know what the gift of literature is," because this is a totally different story. It's very similar, but it depends on the narrative of how you're looking at it.
Right.
right.
Right?
Yes, again,
And-
angles. Yes.
Well, maybe
So, well,
you're,
it all has to.
maybe you're supposed to be a
It all
preacher.
has to do with the.
Well, I think
Go ahead,
he is
Jennifer.
preaching. he's preaching.
No,
about
but
what
I'm
happened
just
to him.
saying maybe that's one of his paths. Is maybe your path is that you're supposed to show this new way to us, and you're supposed to be a preacher.
I'd say, well, not necessarily a preacher, but yeah, I mean, I feel so far what he's told us and
Motivational
what's speaking
speaker?
is that not a motivational speaker. He has been given something that, and you said it before, a messenger of sorts to deliver somehow, some way these
Something
experiences.
opened up my. Yeah,
Yes.
something opened my eyes up.
Yes.
A mission.
Yes.
A mission. Maybe, you know,
You know,
like
it-
everyone is given a purpose and a mission in life, and maybe this is your mission. Maybe you continuing asking questions, you know, when you were younger and stuff was a start of it. But
Well,
then
okay,
maybe when
so-
you were in college, your meditations maybe, let's say, jump started it to the next level.
Okay. Okay. So I'll share a little bit more about when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect some dots in my story with what happened in a sequence of events to allow me to see. So it's sort of like
Okay.
I say, they can communicate through synchronicities, right? So,
Right.
so let's say somebody has a question, or let's say there's somebody out there listening right now, and they were wondering about something, and whatever reason, they tuned in tonight, and something I said answered that question that they were wondering. Like there's synchronicities like this happening all the time,
Oh yeah.
and it's not all coincidence.
Yeah.
Right? So going back to, I'll go back in my youth some to answer your question, and this goes back to again now this is going to get a little far out, but I don't care.
Oh,
It's
that's
part
okay.
it's part of right, and I have to go by the words that I heard the first day. I am what I am,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to accept that. So when they were telling me certain things about me, one thing I'll say, and it sounds weird, I don't care. They said they put me here. And I was like, what do you mean you put me here? And when I was asking them this, they kind of opened memories up in me.
Okay.
And one of those memories is laying on the lawn at my grandma's house when I was maybe 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
And I remember I had gotten in trouble for something, and I went outside, and it was in the evening, and it was already dark. And I'm looking at the night sky, and because it's the country, like you can see all the stars.
Oh,
And I was
yeah.
laying there as a little boy, and I was crying. And I remember, they made me remember it. I was looking up at the sky, and I was asking them, why am I here? Why did you leave me here? I don't belong here. I don't want to stay here. And I can remember this. And I was like, but this is a part of them telling me who I am. So I'll go a little deeper into this, and it gets a little weirder. Sometime in my 20s, I was at my sister's house. I'm playing video games with her son.
Okay.
And she's talking to a friend of hers in the next room. And they get on the topic of UFOs. And my sister tells a story, and I can hear her, right? I'm just an earshot away. And she tells this story. She says, well, I believe in UFOs because I seen one when I was little. And she told this story of how a UFO had followed the family from my grandma's house in the country one night.
Huh.
And she said, like, we stopped before we got to the highway and we were watching this thing and then it just shot off. And she's like, I was only little. And she said, I don't think Joe and Chris were even born yet, my younger brother. She goes, that's how young I was, but I remember it.
Yeah.
So, knowing this story and having overheard that, I'm kind of reflecting back. Who the hell am I?
Right.
They put me here. What the hell is this, right? This is literally what I'm thinking. I'm going through something. And what I did, I made a phone call down east, and I called my father. He was still alive at the time. And I said, this is the conversation I had, because I wanted to ask him about that story that I overheard my sister say.
Right.
Right? But so I called my dad. This is the way the conversation went. I said, Dad, I've got to talk to you about something, and it's going to get weird. And he got all serious. He's like, okay, Joseph, what is it? You know, what's the matter? I said, well, nothing's the matter. I said, I want to know, do you believe in God? And this is how I entered the conversation with him. And he goes, yeah, you know, I believe in God. Why? I said, are you religious? He goes, well, yeah, we go to Catholic church and stuff. I said, so you go to church every week? And at the time he had an oxygen tank with him because his lungs were no good. Mm-hmm. So he says, well, no, I can't go to church anymore, but Betty, his wife at the time, you know, she goes every week. So I was like, okay, you know, that's good to know. And I just talked to him a little bit about faith and stuff. Then I asked him, I said, what about UFOs? You believe in those? And he tells me a story. He goes, yeah. He says, Betty and I were coming across Maine, and we seen some lights up in the sky, about 7 of them, and they were just slowly moving across the sky. He's like, we seen them for about 10 or 15 minutes before we couldn't see them anymore.
Right.
He's like, and we know they were seen because they were reported on the news. Lots of people seen them. So I was like, okay, that's cool. Then he tells me, he goes, and there was a long time ago. He goes, you and Chris weren't even born. And I was like, aha. And he told me the same story. He said they left my grandma's house. They went out the road right before, maybe 200 yards before the main highway on this dirt road. There's a huge, like, 10-acre clearing field.
Okay.
And so he asked me, he's telling me the story. He said, so they drove out. He said, I stopped a couple of times because there was a light up above us, and it's following us. And I knew it was because I would stop, and it stopped. And it was just staying there. And then we'd go, and it would go. He said, you know out by Price's Field? I said, yeah. He goes, well, we stopped there. And we all got out of the car, and we stood there about 5-10 minutes watching this thing, and then it took off. So I said to him, I said, well, that's interesting. Because I heard Shelley tell that story, my sister Shelley. Right. I said, I heard her tell that story. I wanted to hear from somebody else. So this is very interesting because it was an unexpected add-on. And
right.
Again, the synchronicity with something else furthered my understanding. So he said, he said he had it on. He goes, and then a couple months later, he goes, I seen something weird. Nobody else did because it was the middle of the night. He said, and I got up to go to the bathroom, and I noticed it was bright outside. But it was like 2 or 3 in the morning. Shouldn't be bright out. He's like, so I went to the window and I opened up the curtain and I looked out. He said our yard was glowing a golden light. Something golden, really? Some golden light was over the yard.
Huh.
So I was like, wow, that's interesting. Now that kind of ties into something I see the next day or maybe 2 days after that goes in sync with it, which is Jose. We're just working one day. We're not talking about anything abnormal. We're just talking about work, a regular conversation, talking about the job.
Right.
All of a sudden, he just changes topics. almost like something made him do it. I can't explain it, but it's these synchronicities.
Mm-hmm.
And he just looks at me and goes, "Hey, did you ever hear about the Pope who met an extraterrestrial?"
Huh.
And I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah." And he brings up this story, and he shows me it. So I'm looking at this story. So it was back in the late 50s. There was a pope known as, I think it was Pope John 23rd. But he was known as the good pope. And the story is told by who was at the time his secretary or something. And it happened in 1961. And from the perspective of the storyteller, he said, we were walking in the garden, and a craft came down and landed about 100 yards away from us in the garden. And a door opened, and a being stepped out. And he said, we both got down to pray, and when we looked up, it was still there. So we knew it wasn't an apparition. He said, we stood up, and the Pope started walking towards the being, and the being walked out from the craft, and they met, and they stood and talked about 15 or 20 minutes. He said, and the Pope came back to where I was, and the being got back in the craft, and it left. And the Pope looked at me and said, it seems we have brothers all around us. Now, how this ties into what my dad is saying, and everything related with God, is his description of the being.
Right.
He said it was a tall being. He said it was a tall being with elongated ears, and the skin had a golden glow. So, again, I'm thinking angels, golden glowing skin, right? Like, are they being serious by telling me they put me here? Did these beings physically put me here? I don't know.
Right.
But this is kind of what they're showing me.
Huh. That's very interesting. So,
So that goes...
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Well, that I was just going to mention, like, Jennifer, that goes back to your question you asked before of why do I feel like they chose me? And it's like, maybe it was always from the beginning of my life. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I am. I don't know. Maybe they planted me here. I can't say.
Yeah.
But they told me, like...
So,
They told...
Right, and I understand where you're coming from. So, Joseph, have you ever, in the encounters with him, with the beings, were they ever showing you any visions about you maybe being on a craft earlier or anything like that you didn't encounter? Maybe you were part of a craft?
No.
Okay.
No, nothing like that.
Did they say anything about you possibly being a star child?
Ah.
Oh, okay.
Not
They
to get
told me
into
something.
everything, but yes.
And again, only answer things that
You feel
comfortable
comfortable
with.
with,
well-
yes.
What they called me, and this had to do with channeling energy, what they made reference to me as, they said, you are the golden child of Aquarius. When they were explaining to me who I am and what's my purpose.
Okay.
And it's something to do with connecting souls spiritually and building energy grids. Right? I'll just say it. Like, I don't care if it sounds crazy anymore. This is the experience. This is, something like, even for me, some people may think this is great. It's not. It's not. I'm not the person that I grew up thinking I was.
Right.
This isn't right. And if it's not true, why is this happening? Like, why am I seeing all this? Why am I experiencing it? Like, it's not an easy thing to be going through.
Yeah, without question. I mean, it seems to be somewhat of a heavy burden for just one individual, as far as you know.
Again, though, I have to go back to the voice that first night and the meaning of it, right? What it said to me. I am what I am. I cannot be someone else, so I must accept that I am me. It's like, that has so much meaning. How do you accept being something that you never knew that you were?
Yeah, to find out literally,
right?
In a 24-hour period.
And then I wonder, too, is this something that was always destined? or is this something that I made an agreement to? When I said I would stop this from happening, right?
Wow.
Is that when I got hooked into this? Like me, I'm still kind of confused about the whole experience, but I try to piece it together and I try to deal with it the best that I can. But it's not an easy thing to deal with. Like when you're seeing the world differently, it's not easy. It's not easy to deal with this.
Yeah, I can't
You
imagine.
know, and just that aspect of it makes me hesitant to speak it. That's why I don't talk about it much. But I feel like it has to be said. This
It
is
has
part
to
of
come out.
what I
It has
agreed
to come
to.
out. I have a feeling.
Right.
I have a feeling between this episode and episode 2 that in some sort of way, shape, or form, it may lift a little bit of anxiety or stress off of you. Getting this out to the public. Sort of as you spoke about how you feel that maybe that was your mission is to inform. So
No, real quick here, Joseph. Let me just take you back just a moment here. Did any of this ever happen to any of your ancestors?
Anybody before you, perhaps, in the family?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Normally, stuff like this will actually trail down the bloodline. So, one thing is that I think this is something that you should take as a gift.
Well,
not be overwhelmed by it or scared of it or anything. Welcome it. Obviously we can't change the world. We can't change what's going to happen or anything like that. It's just you've been given the gift to actually see what's going to happen. Yes, it may be disturbing, but I think that they want you to kind of maybe run with it and maybe share your experience, not hold it in, if that makes sense.
I will say this. It is a very unique situation of sorts. It's very special. There is a reason without question that you were, I guess, so to speak, chosen for this information that you communicated with. So there is a purpose behind this, as we've stated a few times now. It's just which direction do you go? How do you go about it? And really, when do you go about it? And things of that nature. Really quickly, if you have any questions for Joseph, please call in to the nationwide call-in line at 1-507-384-9390. If you're a first-time caller, you can call in to the 1-507-307-4424 line. Now, quickly, I have some questions that are slightly off topic, but now, as far as real-world events, perhaps, that were spoken to you about, future-wise again. For example, we have quite a bit of listeners in Kiev, the Ukraine, specifically in a area north of the capital in European. North of the capital district in that area. Will the Russians in Ukraine, other former states, Soviet states, and things like that, will Putin respond with extreme measures, Cold War type errors, far worse? That could be the fire in the sky that was spoken about. Could that be relating to what is happening with the Russian Ukraine situation. Was that ever spoken about in any type of way, shape, or form? I mean, they didn't have to come out and really say Russian Ukraine, but anything that related to it.
The only thing I could comment in that relation, and something they made me aware of, is that, and apparently governments around the world are aware of this, they're not allowed to use nuclear weapons. That is a big no-no. They've been told, no, you're not going to start bombing each other with these weapons. The Galactic Council wouldn't allow it. They will intervene.
So this is what has been told to world leaders, is what you're saying?
Well, that goes all the way back into when they made contact with beings back in the 50s and stuff.
Okay.
Right? They've been in contact for some time.
I see.
Right? But when you get into different races of beings, that's a topic, a whole other topic. But yeah, as far as my understanding is, humans were not allowed to bomb each other with nukes. They're not going to allow it. They would come down and intervene.
What would happen? What would happen if you had, a madman, or maybe somebody pulling the strings behind him, actually use nuclear weapons, even though perhaps he was told not to? Do they have a way to stop this from happening?
Yeah, they would disable it in the air.
Wow.
Their technology, dude, their technology is like so far beyond ours. And actually, it makes references of all this in the gospel.
Okay.
Believe it or not, it talks about the technologies of man and how that's like child's play to these people.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar, but there's actually a report. I mean, one event back, I don't know if it was in the 60s, but there was a reported event where they went and they shut down a whole nuclear facility.
Yeah, that was, I do believe that was the Upper Peninsula in Michigan.
Yeah, so what happens when, nuclear weapons are not just causing harm to this reality and to the physical world.
Yes.
There's a lot of energy, and there is a metaphysical world, right? And it causes disruptions, like, and humans have to be careful with that, because
right.
there are beings out there, and much like humans, if their existence were threatened, they will defend themselves, right? The same as how we would,
right?
You know what I mean? So if humans, even unknowingly, create that threat, even through, the wrong energy, through the metaphysical reality, and it's affecting beings, they'll intervene.
Well, I guess that's good to know. Thank God.
Yeah, like they wouldn't allow the governments to just wipe the people out. Like that's not exactly what we're seeing right now in the world.
Right, yeah, of course, I speak about the future, but, that's, that's good to know that they have the capability to do that. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I just, coincidences or not, but I just saw a video of a gentleman, I don't know if he was from the Air Force or not, another pilot that had released a video of a ICBM being tested, and while it was in the air, heading toward its hypothetical target, which was obviously, in the middle of the ocean or whatever have you, something clearly, this is one of the best videos that I think I've seen in a very long time, clearly show two unidentified objects, or what they call now UAPs, shooting what looked to be laser beams at the actual nuclear war tip, the warhead, and the rocket, within 5 to 10 seconds, the ICBM, simply stopped working and dropped back to Earth. And again, I said that they pointed the lasers at the nuclear tipped part of the ICBM, and it landed back to Earth, and obviously there was no nuclear explosion, and the ICBM was devastated itself. And that happened in a matter of 10 seconds when they actually did discover the ICBM or make their way to the ICBM. So that again, with what you're talking about, it makes me even more like, wow, this is hitting me, because I've heard of these things that he is speaking about, or at least trying to pass forward. So yeah. Joseph, this is incredible stuff.
Well, it's about just how we're looking at reality, right? Again, we've got to take a step in evolution and recognize this metaphysical world, because it's there. I know it's there. Lots of people know it's there, but we got to get past the point of saying, I believe it's there. Let's step into it. Let's own it. Let's say, I know it's there. Now let's explore it, right?
Yeah.
Let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can build these energy grids. Let's see if we can change the frequency of this whole planet by connecting our soul bodies. That's the next step in evolution.
Right.
Right? It is getting in tune with this other part of us, which is actually more powerful than the physical part of ourselves.
Right. So, Joseph, during your encounters, did they ever say how long we have here on Earth?
I mean, just in general,
Yeah.
straight up. Did they ever mention that?
No. Actually, people asked me that right after this whole thing, and I was telling people about this, and people would say, "Well, when is it going to happen, in our lifetime or what?"
Yeah.
Right.
And honestly, they never gave a time. But my response to people was always like, well, if it's not going to happen in our time, why are they showing it to me now?
Right.
Right.
Or it could very well be that we start stepping into a higher state of consciousness so that future generations are there. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Right? I can't say when it's going to happen. So, no, they never gave me a timeline on it.
Now,
But
go ahead.
But there are, something I will point out, though, is something I was made aware of at the time, because, again, this happened in early January of 2017. Now, in the book of Revelations, and this is what we were talking about, when I said Jose and I were talking about planet Nibiru and stuff, we were looking at astrology stuff, and one thing that I was paying attention to, and I actually watched it, I got a sky app, a star app on my phone, so I could actually see this for myself. And it happened on January 23rd, 2017, which was a planetary alignment.
That's correct.
And that is a fulfillment of the prophecies which kickstarts the end times, right? Which is an alignment, and it says it's going to have the sun will be in her clothes and the moon beneath her feet and 12 stars above her head. Well, that's a prophecy.
Yeah.
Well, that prophecy happened on that day. And the way it looked from the Sky app, because I was looking at it during the daytime, and the planets were in a perfect alignment in a circle around us. Now, there's obviously different depths between us and the planet, whichever planet it is, right? They're going to be closer or further, but they were all in a line. The sun, the moon, everything was in a perfect line circle around us, right?
Yeah.
So that's a sign of the end times, right? The things that we're seeing on the earth right now, they're all prophecies out of Revelations.
Right.
Right? So we can sit and we can say, well, this is just all coincidences. But sometimes, maybe we got to stop and say, well, maybe these aren't coincidences.
Right.
And if this event that happens is a natural event, well, then it could be easily prophesized because it's happened before. And who did it happen to? These are questions we should be asking. Because
Right.
if there were a lifespan before the human, well, what race of beings were here? Are they the ones that built the pyramids? Right? Are they the ones responsible for some of these ancient technologies that archaeologists dig up, thousands and thousands of years old, and we can't figure out how did our ancestors have this technology? Well, maybe it wasn't our ancestors, right? Maybe
Right.
it was beings before us.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So, is there a heaven or a hell at all?
Okay, so I'll go back to, I'll talk about my father for a minute, and I can't really answer heaven or hell.
Okay.
But let me answer this question, a question that people have, which is there life after death?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to my father. He died on March 5th, 2017, just weeks after I had this conversation with him. And in my conversation, I had told him everything that these beings were telling me.
Right.
Like personal stuff about who I am. So even he was even saying, well, I don't know about all that, but maybe God's chosen you as a messenger or prophet, and, maybe you're supposed to preach the gospel or something. But anyways, on March 5th, what happened there is I was getting bullied so much from work, and I was getting ridiculed. Now, I'm working in construction. These are all construction guys.
Yeah.
When I would walk into the back, people were standing in circles like guys do, they'll stand in a huddle and have a conversation. But when I would show up, they would all look at me and burst out laughing and then huddle back and, just very uncomfortable. And, they're pretty much laughing in my face,
Yep.
Yeah.
right?
Sounds like
And,
the
and,
railroad.
I'll tell you, and to further that discussion, how it stopped is our human resource lady. Her son is autistic, and he got bullied a lot.
Ah,
And one day she's sitting in her office, and her door is open, and
Right.
two managers were standing out in the main office, and they were talking about me, and they were talking bad, and they're laughing and joking and cracking jokes and stuff. And she told me this. She said, I went out there and I asked them, what are you doing? Do you realize what you guys are doing? You guys are sitting here bullying him behind his back. And she's blasting him. She's like, we have a zero tolerance policy for that.
Right.
And one of them looks at her and kind of shrugs. He goes, come on, the guy's saying he talked to God. And she looked at him. She looked at these two and she said, can you stand here right now and tell me 100% that he did not talk to God?
Exactly.
Yep.
How the hell would they know?
And both of them looked and they said no. And she said, well, then I suggest you guys shut up before I take your jobs from you, because I'm not going to tolerate it.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
And then what happened in the back, there was actually a coworker, and he actually stood up for me one day. It was a group of guys, and he was part of the group. There were 7 or 8 of them. And they started cracking the jokes. He actually had the nerve, because he was bullied.
Okay.
He was bullied all of his life. He's a shorter guy. He's Portuguese, and people always bullied him. He actually had the nerve to step in the middle of the circle and look at them all and say, listen, why don't you guys stop talking?
Wow.
He said, you guys don't know if we all can see Joe's going through something. He's experiencing something.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
This is just bullying, and it's wrong. He goes, I suggest you stop before I start reporting it.
Oh, beautiful.
Right? And it was those two kind of interventions that kind of cooled thing at work, right?
Yeah.
But going back to March 5th, so what happened that day is I was frustrated at work.
Right.
And I was leaving the shop with Jose in the truck, and I started venting about him. And I was telling him, I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this. And he's going, what do you mean? I said, God asked me to be a messenger or do stuff, I said, but I didn't sign up to be ridiculed like this and laughed at.
Right.
I said, I'm not doing it. He can find somebody else. And I vented about it. And I vented about it halfway to our job site. For a good half hour, I was just letting it out. That was about maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. Around 11 o'clock, I get a phone call. Yeah, Joseph, Dad just died today.
Oh, no.
And I pulled the truck over. I actually went for a walk. Ironically, or synchronicity again, where am I? I'm standing at this giant church. I'm standing in the parking lot. That's where I had pulled the truck over, just random spot. I pulled over to take the phone call. And, I had to go for a walk. I was going to cry. I knew that. I didn't want to cry in front of Jose.
Right.
And I went over and I sat on those church steps. And I was just asking why. So anyways, my work gets in contact with me. They're like, yeah, we understand if you want to go home. I said, yeah. I said, I'm taking the rest of the day. They're being very accommodating. They're like, hey, do you want somebody to go pick you up? Or I said, no, I'm good to drive the truck back, but I'm not working no more today. They were like, yeah, totally understandable.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to work. I went back home. As soon as I came back home, I'm thinking about all this. I'm thinking about it. Well, what had just happened? I told God I wasn't going to do something that I made an agreement to do.
Correct, yep.
And was it just coincidence that my father died?
Right.
So I went to meditate to speak with God again, to say I'm sorry.
Right.
Right? To say, like, I'm sorry for that outburst. You know what I mean? So when I connected and I tethered and I'm channeling, and I said, are you there? To answer the question, is there life after death? It was my Father on earth that spoke to me.
Wow.
And it was as clear as you hearing my voice right now.
Yeah.
And what he said to me was this. He said, son, I'm okay. Don't worry about me. Everything is fine. I want you to know you were right about everything you were saying, and don't let anybody ever discourage you from being who you are.
Oh, wow.
And with that, I thanked him, and I said my goodbyes to him. And then I turned my focus more to God, and I said, listen, I'll do what you're asking. Just please don't hurt any more of my family, or I'll commit to it. I'll submit to you. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I made an agreement with something. I'll stick with the agreement. So for me personally, I will say 100% there's life after death. What happened. People can take it any way they want. They can believe it. They can be curious about it. For me, absolutely, I spoke to my dead father just hours after he passed away. He was able to communicate back to me.
Wow.
So where is he? Right? He's part of, like, I understand where he is. He's going back to the all. He's going back to the source.
Right, exactly. That is something that's just simply incredible. This is great stuff. I have so many questions, but I'm looking at our time right now. We are hitting the 3-hour mark now, and unfortunately, Spreaker will only let you do 3 hours at a time. So we are going to have to make this a part 2, Joseph.
No problem.
Okay, so
I have a lot to share. Not so much from the experience or the experience itself. That's the story I'm telling now of why my perception's changed. But I would like to be able to share how my perception has changed.
Exactly.
How I've seen dimensions, how I understand how they work, how I understand how we're working with them all the time. It's a part of us.
Right.
Right? How our bodies are like portals. We are interdimensional beings.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the human bodies are amazing. So I'll say for sure we can do telepathy. I did it. I don't see any reason why anybody else can't do it. Right? I'll say, like, there's extrasensory abilities that we have, and I'm thinking this is a time in history for us to take a step in evolution and open up those extrasensory abilities, and let's start exploring it and see what we're capable of.
I fully agree. You know, quickly, before I forget, now the song we had mentioned earlier, is there a method or way that you might be coming up with, or you might already have, where if people want to maybe get that song, do you have something set up, or do you have something in the works for that?
I could set something up. It's not set up as yet.
Okay.
I had considered this coming on. I was like,
yeah, I know we
telling,
discussed it.
Our mutual friend, like, what if people like it and want it? I don't have it out on any platforms, but he told me how to easily put it out. So if people's interested, let us know. I'll put it out on the platform, and they could get it off iTunes or Spotify. It'll show up on all the platforms.
Perfect. I'm going to let people know about that on NTR Facebook and NTR Twitter as much as possible. So if they're interested, I will guide them in your direction, and or you can let me know, and I will post it properly as well. And Chris too. I know he knows obviously a ton of people that can get that information out as well. So. That is one question I wanted to ask first and foremost. Now, as far as part 2, which we're obviously going to do because there's so much more. I know alone I have a multitude of questions still left. I'm sure people listening, like you said, questions are being answered as you go. How do you, where do you want to? Where do you want to begin in part 2? Or do you want to know what happened after the events that took place, and where you are present day? How do you want to continue this?
It's really up to you. It's
okay. Okay.
It doesn't matter to me. I had a few more. Sightings of the UFOs. A couple of them were actually shared with my oldest brother. He was a witness to it. He was a witness to me communicating with them as we're seeing the flashes in the sky. So there's...
So essentially, we need to pick up where we left off. Because I want to hear every single detail that you have. So
right.
We're going to pick up where we're going to leave off for part 2, and then we can continue on that way.
Yeah, and like I say, in part 2, they just gave me so much of understanding. Like I'm saying, if we're going to take a step into consciousness,
yes,
the question becomes how? How do we do it? Right? How do so many different people with so much diversity step into the same space, right? And there's ways of understanding ourselves, and not even so much about what we are, but what we are not.
Right.
Right. And it comes down to understanding, like, what is reality? What is this matrix that we're looking at? Right? We can talk about all of this stuff. Dimensions and how we're kind of we are connected through multiple dimensions, and how we can how do we go from saying I believe to saying this is what it is.
Right, exactly.
Right? How do we take that step? And it's about actually, if you want, in the next part, I'll actually show people how all of this stuff is connected, whether you're looking at it from spiritually or from a religious or science. It's like it's all connected. It's the same thing. It's talking about the same thing. But we could have a discussion about the collective consciousness and what it's all about letting go of the self, the ego self, and stepping into this higher conscious body. But I'll read not just a verse or a couple of verses. I'll read you a whole chapter out of the Bible that talks about the creation of this collective consciousness.
I would love
Wow,
that. I would
yeah,
love that.
that'd
I
be
think our
interesting.
listeners would absolutely
Yeah.
love that type of stuff too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
We've
so
never had that
curious.
before.
Yeah, we've never had that
so
before.
that'd be like
And,
interesting.
I mean, you're learning things here.
Yep.
Is the key.
And see, and the thing is that, like we tell everyone, we are not here to change their mind on anything.
No.
We're just
No,
here to give them an idea, and with
we let
you,
them judge for themselves.
Right, and with you having this information and stuff and sharing this information today,
It's more ammo, so to speak.
it may open up some
Well-
people's eyes. It may not,
Well, I'm coming to realize this is it may not be for everybody, and that's
Right.
okay. I've really taken a look at people's beliefs, how people form the beliefs, and in order to step out of our ego self, that's where the beliefs belong to.
Yep.
That's why I say to step into a different state of consciousness, it doesn't matter if you're a Christian or a Hindu or a Muslim or a Jew or you're black or you're white, or it doesn't matter. None of it matters. That's the physical self.
Right.
And we've got to step away from it into the conscious self and do stuff with moving around energies and changing frequencies, which has absolutely nothing to do with people's religions or people's understandings, right? So it's about changing, taking a step of ourselves into a higher state of consciousness. Like we could get into all of this in the
Yeah.
next discussion.
Yeah,
and
I
certainly,
can't wait.
certainly. That would be very interesting.
And again, I hate to pressure you. I mean, we got. I can't. I will say this. This is officially the longest show that we've ever had.
right.
I'll put it that way. But no, yeah, we want you back right away. I'm talking about the next couple of weekends here. Then,
But it may have to be on a Friday because we are booked all the way to September. But to get your second show in, we would do a special Friday night.
I think, well, not only possibly a Friday night if we're booked, but I almost want him back on a Saturday night. I mean,
I know, but some of these
really
people
do.
have been booked for a long time. So let's just take a look at our schedule, see
We're
what
going
we
to
can
take a
do
look. We're
for
gonna
jogging
see what we
around
do,
things.
and I want to fit you in at
Yeah.
the best possible time.
Right.
And my gosh, I keep thinking about next weekend, actually, because of Summerfest being here, and a lot of people are going to be listening to the show. You're essentially open. We discussed before. We may be in contact a little bit sooner than we think here. So, I would be watch for my text in the next couple of days. let's put it that way. And obviously I'll talk to you before then. But we want to continue this conversation. No question about it. It's been intriguing. There's plenty of things that I'm going to be thinking about tonight. I can tell you that, and I'm sure our listeners are doing the same thing as we speak. So, if you want to come back, we want you back. Okay.
That's not a problem. I'd be happy to get, like I say, get more into the information and just
excellent.
Because I'll tell you something. What the whole experience has done for me is really humbled me.
Yeah,
what I mean by that is, like the physical person, it's like it made me realize it's a speck of dust.
Yeah, we really,
you know what I mean?
are.
Like,
yeah,
but so I would love to get into the other part of who we are, because we're so much more than the physical self.
This is great.
I
can't wait.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It'll probably be almost another 3-hour show.
Yeah, I'd imagine, and I can't wait because it just like I said, I'm sitting here with my jaw on the ground at the point, and listen to some of the stuff. What's funny is there's some things that I really can relate to. Is the key with me. I don't know about you, but I can imagine a lot of our listeners, especially around the world, abroad even, are in tune more. But this is great, and I want this to continue. So we're going to bid adieu now, but we will be talking to you.
The way it does look
very
like
quickly.
is that we could probably do next Saturday.
How about that? How does that sound?
What's that?
How does next Saturday sound?
That's fine.
It looks
I'm
like
good to go
we do.
whenever.
We do have the opening.
Yeah, I could do it. I could talk again next Saturday. That's not a problem.
All right, we're gonna.
I'm pretty flexible. It might cut into my four-wheeling.
Hey, as long as you send me videos, man. I mean, that's like a lifelong thing I've been wanting to do. Send me some videos. We'll cut you some slack. But no, next week is Summerfest here at Red Lake Falls. And,
We'll have a lot of listeners.
Yeah, and, around here, of course, we have, there's strange occurrences and things of that nature, and Warren, Minnesota, the UFO incident, and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, and then what is it? There's a Foston, isn't it? Foston not too long away from here, too. They had the crop circles.
And the crop circles,
yeah.
And this and that, which people say have been disproven, but then again, there's other things. But, yeah, so, my gosh, I can't think about...
because I haven't even mentioned what I was showed about the pyramids.
Oh, which I want to get to big time.
One quick question. Were you shown anything about the crop circles?
That's what
crop circles? No. I never really asked about that.
Okay, but yes,
that's
very
something myself I
interesting
heard
about the
about.
pyramids too. Yes.
But yeah, okay. It sounds like a game plan, my friend. Next Saturday, and we'll talk about it. Obviously, I'll talk to you tonight and this week, and we'll get that all set and the promos out there. But for everybody listening out there, Part 2 coming Saturday. So this is gonna be nice. I like this. All right, my friend, you have yourself a wonderful night until next Saturday night. A week from tonight, we will get back to where we left off in this intriguing conversation and the experiences that you have had.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and we'll get back into it next week.
All right, sounds good. I appreciate it big time. And yes, again, we'll be in touch. And next Saturday, folks, we're back with Part 2. Okay, you have yourself a wonderful evening, my friend.
Yes, that sounds good, Joe.
You too, guys.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, so that was Joe Chase. I guess you could call him a UFOologist. I mean, that's kind of what he spoke about a little bit in his biography. But obviously a multitude of names, like I said in the beginning, can go along as a title before his name. Joseph.
Yeah.
What did you think about some of these things that he's discussing? I mean, they really go on an adventure, so to speak, outside of anything that we've discussed so far on the show.
I think that he has actually been chosen for some reason. I think that,
without question.
Honestly, I think it'd be very interesting if we got everyone out there who has been chosen in some way or another to put out the information, to the world and stuff. Like
he's a messenger.
For me, instance,
he's a messenger without question.
Right, and I'm a contactee. I've been contacted too, and I've been told a message, and I've been told to build something too, and I've also been shown that I have a major purpose in my life and what I'm supposed to do with the Galactic Federation and everything too. So I think it would be really interesting to get everyone who has those kind of gifts or uniqueness to them put together in one big bunch and just have a big conversation. There might be some connection there.
In my head, I think we may have somebody to actually sit in as a special guest co-host who would be intrigued by this stuff next Saturday as well. On top of us.
Maybe so. I'm not sure where you're coming at with that one, but...
I'm not going to say anything quite yet.
Yeah, I mean, that would be very interesting as well.
So, I think that... obviously we already know. Next Saturday, 9:05 Central Time. Hopefully we won't have any microphone problems. I highly doubt it. I've learned my lesson there. But next Saturday, it's a go.
Yes, it definitely is a go, and it'll be very, very intriguing to see what he's got to say about the more about the consciousness and how we're connected.
I know. I'm thoroughly excited. You know what? I will say goodbye for Jennifer at the moment. But once again, had a great night with this part one. That's what our baby's doing right now. Wah. That's what you get when you have a in-home studio. So, but good times, great conversation, very intriguing, and we'll have more of it next Saturday, 9:05 p.m. Central Time. Red Lake Falls Summerfest 2022 will be going down at the same time. So it's going to be a crazy weekend in the great Upper Midwest. I want you guys to make sure that you tune in or write it down on your calendar, do whatever you have to. But we shall be back, and it will be fun. Joe Chase shall return. So, for NTR, tonight's special guest and NTR New Music Now performer, Joe Chase, the wonderful Jennifer Gregerson, Chris Hale of the White House, the Dollar General in Red Lake Falls, Minnesota, the Red Lake Falls, Minnesota Public Library, Spreaker.com, and of course, Art Bell, because without him, none of this would be possible. And me, your host, Daniel Brewer, saying until the next NTR, stay safe and remember, they are listening. So long, everybody.